Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. on the Eastern time zone as we get to ride home with each other. You can find us on television. That's on Charter Communications, 182, close to the Huntsville, Alabama area. You can also find us on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. And WZLA Radio, you can find us there, the biggest country station in South Carolina. So great to be with that team. By the way, make sure that you listen to Benji and Lacey in the morning. They're going to give you the guts of everything. If you want like the truth about stuff, you're going to get it from them. It's on a local, regional, and national level because they are also on the internet. So find them that way. Make sure you listen to them. They're a good couple. Actually, they are a brother and sister team. So DeJoly, I just got to tell you, when it comes to brothers and sisters, you're going to get some of that sibling rivalry there. And sometimes it's all in fun. It's not like my sibling rivalry. So anyway, it's a lot of fun with them too. And they give you a really good show. So we're really proud about that. I'm going to look. I found something that I need to put back in style so that we can make sure that everybody knows who you are. There you go, DeJoly. Right. And he is a writing coach. And it's so fitting, the questions that we have received. And I'm going to put my notes right up here, and I can see all the questions right here. You got a lot of them. It's all about journaling. But before we get to that, let's continue sending email. Okay, we love getting email about our guests, and it just makes it for a much better show. They get to know where you're coming from and the questions you would like for them to answer for you. That's Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. We've been doing this, by the way, for 21 and a half years. DeJoly, I don't know if you ever saw the original mug. No. This is it was called The Edge at that point. And so Kathy was co-host with me, and we got started 21 years ago. Kathy sometimes she'll just come on the show just for, we just have fun. We'll anniversary shows. But anyway, The Edge been going on for 21 years. Appreciate our sponsors for making this all possible. We've got some of the same sponsors we had 21 years ago, and we are just tickled, and we know that we're blessed about that. But it's all about treating the customer right, and it's always also about the guest we have. I'm not your star of the show. Believe me, a show would be extremely boring about me, but I've got great guests, and we've been doing this for 21 years. DeJoly is a friend of mine. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's a writer. I'm just telling you, just writes all kinds of stuff. But you talk a lot about journaling. And so the people who watch the show have picked up on that. So you've got quite a few questions about that. But before we get started, what brought you to where you are today?
Well, to where I am today is building confidence in myself through evidence of putting one foot in front of the other and taking a risk, and also finding a supportive group of people like yourself, because you have encouraged me all the way, and allowing myself to believe that what they're saying about me is true, and then just keep moving forward. And of course, I journal through all of it because it's basically one of the things that saved my life back in the day, in the 80s, when I started in my recovery process. And I can't say enough about the transformations that happen through journaling. And that brought me to who I am now, because I'm a coach that uses that kind of method, the journaling and the prompts that ask deep questions so that they, have to answer their truth on the paper, so to speak. And that's how I got here. I was asked, but when I was speaking, I used to speak a lot, and like all over the country, about the recovery process and healing and all of that. And so when I was asked, can you help me? Can you help me? I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can help you or not. But I ended up being a coach, because there were people that really wanted my help, and they wanted to know how I got to where I am, right? And it's not a matter of, sitting down and wishing that you're better. It's a matter of taking action. And that's one of the things that I'm, passionate about, is you can manifest your good health. You can manifest a better life by taking action. So that's what I do through my...
take that first step and just go for it. But I wanted to ask you a question, because we got a lot of questions from folks who haven't went through some of the ordeals growing up like you and I did. And so, they say, well, it may not be as important. And believe me, every question you ask us on the show is extremely important. It most certainly is. So a lot of folks have sent messages. It's not quite as bad as what you've got. So why would it be so important that I keep a journal?
Well, because you don't even know. A lot of women don't know, men and women, but mostly women don't know that they've been wounded. They don't know because we are implanted with other people's fears and care and all of the rest of it. By the time we're 18 months, we've had this vision of who we are and what we're supposed to do in order to be loved, to be cared for, and all of that. So because if we don't perform that way, then we don't get the love and the care. So we change our mindset from innocence and loving and it's all about me to, oh, now I've got to do it that way, or I have to belong. And so we change. So for the most part, when you journal, it's telling the truth. It's the same thing as if you're out there in the world and you're saying, I feel fine. And then you go home and you take a drink, or you drug, or whatever you do, you deny. So what you do when you get home, when you're journaling, is you write down, I feel like crap. And then you start going on what it is that you feel crappy about. And you don't have to tell the world what you're crappy about, but you do say the truth on the paper. 99% of the time you'll say that on the paper, but you won't say it out loud. It won't come out of your mouth.
Right.
So that's why, because a lot of women don't know that they were wounded as a child. And by wounding, I don't mean they were beaten or anything like that. But when you're told that you're not as good as this, or you're not doing something right, which it values right and wrong, right? I don't do that. I don't consider that. I think it's comfortable or not comfortable. Your consequences are, it's comfortable or not comfortable. But when you're told all these things, those are wounds. And when you look at that on paper and say, oh, yeah, I did get that. Like, for instance, there's that belief, no pain, no gain. Let's use that one as an example. If you're saying no pain, no gain, that means that if you have an easy life, you're not going to go anywhere. So you want pain. No, you don't. You do not want pain. You don't have to have pain in order to get it. I never
wanted it.
It's kind of like that. It just doesn't make sense, but we all say it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, let's get down to the reality on paper. And when you do that and you're telling the truth, then you can say, oh, here's a belief I have. I have a belief that I'm not worthy of someone good to love me. Right? Because when you were a child, before you were 18 months, after you were 18 months, nobody loved you unless you performed a certain way. For instance. So if you're in a relationship, for example, and the person is like acting like they don't love you, you think it's because you're not giving them enough sex. So you go and you do as much as you can to be sexy and all that. And you deserve, at that point, you say, I deserve his love now because look, I'm doing this. And if he still doesn't act as if he loves you, then you try to do more. You try to fix it by doing something to yourself to match his energy, right? So in journaling, you write that down and you say, why can't I find somebody that really loves me? And then you start saying, oh, this is how I react when he does this. This is how I do when somebody says this about me. I had my first example, not first example, but one of the examples I use is when I was in Walmart one day. A friend of mine, the past friend of mine, came by and she said, oh, you look great. And I was feeling like, are you kidding me? So when she walked by and we finished our little conversation, I was like, she doesn't know me. She doesn't look at me. I'm ugly. I'm all of this, right? So, so I go home and I get out my journal and I say, why am I not able to take a compliment? All she did was say,
big.
She did was say, you look great. And I went in my head and went, blah, 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 you know? So when you put it on paper, the question is, why am I not able to take a compliment? And then you say something, and then you say why, and then you say something and say why. So you keep going back with the whys, and you'll find out that it was back in the past. It was back in the time when Johnny did something to me, and it was, I was ugly.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't chosen for a prom queen. You're ugly, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it is a matter of whether you think you have trauma or not. It's a matter of just being honest on the paper.
Uh-huh.
Because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to say out loud what you really feel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some people do.
Yeah, and that can cause you trauma too for the people who do that.
Yes.
I want to add to that because I learned so much from you about using the non-dominant hand. I'm just going to tell you what, that makes all the difference in the world because you're having to, because I'm just like, oh, well, just, que sera, and I'm just writing whatever down. But if I'm having to really think about it because I'm using the non-dominant hand, now it looks horrible. Nobody can read it, which could be a good thing. But anyway, I'm writing because I'm left-handed. So now I'm using the right hand. I'm having to put a lot more thought into what I'm writing down in the journal.
Well, it's actually it's kind of an opposite of that. And that is that you're not filtering it. When you're writing with your dominant hand, your brain is filtering. What?
That's the word. I'm not filtering anything.
Yeah. You're not filtering. You're just saying the truth on the paper.
I'm just vomiting those words out with my non-dominant hand.
Exactly. And when you're writing with your dominant hand, you have filters. You have, oh, that doesn't look right. I should correct that punctuation. Oh, I misspelled that. Oh, I didn't really mean that. That kind of thing. So when you change your hand, your brain is bypassed. All those filters are bypassed because it goes into a whole different section of your brain. And like you said, you vomit the words out on the paper, and you may not be able to read them at first, but the more you do it, the more you're able to read it.
You're right, because I can read it better. But I spent so much time using my dominant hand, like, oh, I forgot to cross that T. Yep. Then I'll go in and I'll cross the T, and then it's like, wait a minute, what was I writing?
Yep.
So now that I'm not using my dominant hand, I don't even do that anymore. It's almost like, so what? I didn't cross the T. And I just keep going, and it's just, it really is helpful. I wanted to ask you a question. This is about your sphere of influence. Okay, because when you're born and you got the family and, you got your parents, maybe may have a weird sense of doing things. Mm-hmm. You've got their sphere of influence, which can be dominant in your life if you not really, really care. How important is it, or do you evolve in different spheres of influences throughout your life?
You absolutely do. And part of that is because the reason that you're here is to evolve into the spiritual person that you were brought here to be. Okay, so let's just say that. So if you're in a sphere of influence and there's negativity around you as a child, your goal in life, whether you know it or not, is to move forward, right? You're moving forward toward this goal of being the spiritual being. So each time you make a move, and I want to come back to that particular thing. Each time you make a move, you're moving toward that goal. And in that, you're moving through different friends, you're moving through different places that you live, you're moving through different chapters in your life. Like I went to school, and then I got married, and then I had children, and then I did la, 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 la. And so during that time, you're making these different moves. You have to become more conscious. And I think that's probably one of the things that journaling does. It helps you become more conscious of what you're actually evolving into, and acceptance of who you are at that point, because sometimes we don't accept the changes. And I'll tell you what, whether it's a positive or negative change, and this is what I wanted to go to, is there's always grief. Yeah. You're going to always have some form of grief and a moment, even if it's just a moment. Oh, I miss so-and-so because I've evolved to this and she's staying back there, right? Or I miss my dog because I moved into this apartment and I had to let go of him. And then you have to readjust because the apartment was the goal and you had to lose something in order to get that apartment. So there's a bit of grief there over that. It could be a job, a transfer, which you think is going to be bad for you and ends up being the best thing that could happen, or leaving a job. But you have, that moment, or even weeks, or even months, sometimes years, depending on what kind of loss it is. It can be a person that you really dearly love that you lose, and you're going to grieve that person for a long time. But it comes and goes. But each time you make that progress toward that spiritual being, you're going to make a change. And each change, no matter whether it's positive or negative, is going to bring a little bit of grief. And so there's a level of acceptance that you have to have. And that's why I use my pen. Because when you journal, you're telling everybody out there you're fine. Oh, I love my new job, blah, blah, blah. But inside you're saying, man, this really is hard. I wish I could have stayed back in Tulsa when they transferred me to New York, that kind of thing. I don't know anything about New York. And 2 weeks later, you're having a bagel and coffee in a bistro and saying, oh, I love this life, that kind of thing. So there is that level of grief that you can write about. There's a level of change. Oh my God, if I make that decision, what's going to happen? You can write that down, journal what you're actually deciding on. And should I make this change? Should I make this trip to New York? And if I do, what will I lose? If I do, what will I gain? Right? And it's almost like a pro and con kind of list of things, right? But if you don't do that, if you do it in your head, it's all confusing and you stay in that state of confusion, and then you don't know what you're going to do. Then you make a decision based on confusion rather than clarity. And that's one thing that journaling does, is it actually allows you to gain clarity about things.
Well, see, Phil and I are like two opposites. I mean, I jump on decisions when I really should set back just a little bit. But Phil will practically do a PowerPoint presentation on why he does things. So he goes the other opposite stuff, which drives me crazy sometimes. And I'm pretty sure it drives him crazy the way I do. And so, but it helps. It works. Because if it were me, I'd just be jumping into all kinds of situations, not even thinking about consequences. It's just like, I think this will work, and it may not when you haven't really thought it out. But how much is too much? I mean, how much is like overthinking it? And then, because I want to use this for an example. So I have a friend who had a chance to get a house this is back in like the 1990s. They that was a couple, and they could have bought this house for almost nothing. Well, one of them was like me, jumping into stuff, and then the other one was just like, we need to think this out. They thought too long. Somebody else came right behind them and grabbed that house that would be valued now. They could have gotten it like around $200,000 back then. Now it's over $1 million. It's over $1 million. I mean, it's like, beautiful sights and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes if you think too long, you miss out on stuff.
Well, this is where I go with that, and is that you don't know what will have happened had they gotten that house. Mm-hmm. They could have gotten divorced because of that house. They could have had a child die because of that house. You never know. So when you make these decisions, you're not only doing it between the two of you, you're also making it with spirit. Your spirit world is saying, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. Should they experience this? What is going to be the outcome of buying that house? What did they gain by not buying that house? Right. Mm-hmm. So you can't really make a definitive answer about, well, if they had bought the house, it's now worth $1 million, but so what? That's the so what that you're talking about. So what? If I didn't cross my T's? So what if I didn't buy that house? I made my life different. Yes, it's not in a beautiful home like that, but I have a very cozy home with great grandchildren, that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't make an assumption that having not made that decision, they could have had a better life, because maybe they couldn't have.
Well, you've got to feel your gut. There's a gut feeling I get sometimes. So years ago, probably about 20 years ago, about that time I started the show, I had an opportunity with a cosmetic company to move to New York.
Yeah.
It would have been a nice, cushy job. I mean, a lot of money. The income would have been like more than double than what I was making in Alabama. But something just never felt right. And all of my friends kept saying, are you crazy? This is like the opportunity of a lifetime. But for some reason, to me, it didn't feel like the opportunity. And I was even questioning my own sanity. I thought, what, am I trying to be brutal to myself or something? I mean, I was just thinking of everything, Is it me? Like I don't want to be successful for some reason? But it wasn't that. And I'm so glad I didn't do it, because when I got the paper out, and so Phil said, just get a piece of paper out and just make a T, put the reasons you would be successful or you think it would work out and reasons you don't think it would. And I said, have you thought about this? I would be spending it, because you got to keep up with the Joneses when you have a position like that. I said, have you thought about this? I would have to spend a ton of money on clothes. I would probably have to have 10 reconstructions, surgeries on my face, facelifts and all those things, because that's what everybody was doing. And now that I look back, I have friends who have face, and I hope they're not watching me right now. They have facelifts, and I'm just telling, it doesn't look like them. They look like this. And it's like, I don't want to look like that. I'd rather have the wrinkles and just embrace it and be done with it. But I got to thinking about the money I would have spent. Plus, a tiny little apartment would have been incredible. I mean, it was just that. So I couldn't see where I was coming out in the deal. I thought, you know what? I like my gardening. I like, I'm loving the show. I like doing this, and so I think about now versus what it would have been had I taken that position. I think I'm just moons better off than I would have been had I taken that.
I think the benefit of journaling is that you can write out everything about yourself, what you like, what your beliefs are. What?
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, and what your beliefs are and what you would value. What are your values? What do you value? Peace and quiet? Do you value nature? Do you value bistros and bright lights and cement, or dirt? Those are things that you put in that list of whether or not you should take that job. But you journal it out. You did a T, which is very similar to what I'm talking about. Very, very similar. I would do a T as well. But I would also write out, before you got to that, before you had to make a decision, look at yourself and find out what it is about you that you really want in life. And if you want to have sanity, and if you want to have beauty, and you want to have peace and all of that, will you get that making this decision? But you don't know that that's what you want until you find out what it is you want.
Well, the number one factor was, it just happened to be my son. He was 14 during that time. And all I could think about is, how is he going to turn out? Yep. Am I going to be spending 80 hours a week on the job and not know what he's doing? And I think that did it, because my parents both had careers, and it was like no family time. But when you did have family time, it was nothing but a fight, the entire time. And I guess I thought I was going back to when I grew up. Do I really want to raise a son that way? And so he was the number one reason that I didn't do it. And I think Phil was kind of like, he never said anything until after my decision. He said, all I could think of is, it's cold over there, and I could see you at it freezing to death, saying, I want to move back to the South where it's hot. That could have been part of it too. I don't know, but I think the number one is, if I make this move, because when you make a decision, it not only affects you, it affects everybody else too. And you got to think about that. I mean, you got to think about yourself some.
Well, and we're making decisions all day long, whether you know it or not, because your body decides, I got to go to the bathroom. Your body decides, I'm thirsty. Your body, your body decides certain things that you don't even think about. You just go do them. But if you didn't decide to do those things, if your body didn't decide to do those things, you'd be sitting on the sofa all day long, thirsty and hungry.
True.
So
probably needing to wear a diaper because you're not going to the bathroom.
There you go. We're just doing what some people do.
It's about to get weird. I think this is a great time to go into a commercial break.
Okay.
We're going to be right back in just a minute, folks. I love talking to DeJoly. We'll be right back. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. You know, finding the right home isn't just about bedrooms and square footage. It's about comfort, security, and the feeling you get the moment you walk through the door. That's why so many families across Greenwood and the Lakelands area trust Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams. And I'll tell you from personal experience, Jenny was my realtor, and she truly cares about her clients. Jenny takes the time to listen, to understand what matters most, and to guide you every step of the way, whether you're buying your first home, upgrading, or ready to sell. Because this isn't just a transaction, it's your life. With local knowledge, personal care, and a commitment to getting it right, Jenny Ferguson makes the process simple and even enjoyable. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, now's the time to make your move. Call Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams in Greenwood today and take the next step toward a place you'll truly love coming home to. Shine your style at Kiss My Glass right here in the Anderson Mall. There's a place where style meets sparkle. At Kiss My Glass, every piece is handcrafted, custom designed, and made to shine just like you. Owner Beth Gibson brings creativity to life with stunning custom tumblers, gifts, and one-of-a-kind pieces you won't find anywhere else. Look for the perfect gift or something uniquely you, from bold and glamorous to simple and elegant. There's something for every style, so stop by, get inspired, and leave with something unforgettable. Kiss My Glass inside the Anderson Mall, Anderson, South Carolina, where your sparkle begins. Be sure to check out Kiss My Glass on Facebook for updates and specials and gift ideas. Okay, we are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday. Continue sending email. We've got to get to some of these. Email Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. Definitely appreciate you doing this. Can journaling help reduce stress and anxiety?
Absolutely. You know, stress and anxiety actually come from confusion. And we can choose to be in it or not. It's one of those things you can choose to do. So when you're writing, you just write, I am so anxious right now. I can't believe how my body is feeling. You have to know that you're going to pay attention to your body. But the other part of it is you're going to write out the whole situation that you think is what you're anxious about. Okay. And then you're going to take it apart, because what happens is we have an incident and we wrap a story around it almost instantly. Mm-hmm. We have an incident and another story. So what we need to do is go back in our journaling and write the incident, and then what story did I wrap around that? Mm-hmm. And why am I anxious about this when this is my story? But that's not what happened. This is what happened. Like, mm-hmm. Somebody didn't choose me for the prom queen. Let's just go back to prom queen. Somebody didn't choose me for prom queen. It's because I'm ugly. It's because they don't like me. It's because, So what you do is you say, this is the incident, and this is the story, or multitude of stories that you've written or that you've told yourself. So you write them out, and then you say, is that really true? Do I have friends? Do people love me? Do they support me? Now, what is it? Am I ugly? 99% of the time, our stories don't match the incident, but we do that because of things that happened in our past, in our childhood. So bringing it forward and putting it on paper, it definitely takes the stress away because you're being clear. You're not having the confusion in your head about what the story was around that incident. So I would say, yes, definitely. I can tell you from my own personal point of view, it did relieve a lot of stress and moved me through some healing processes that I go through with my clients. And that is when you get to a certain place, you can realize, you look back and say, oh, that's what that is. And when you do that, oh, that's what that is, there's a healing going on.
I have to say this. So my friend Robin and I were best friends in school. We both came to the school the same year in the 9th grade. We both had our love of the other kids we went to school with. And so Robin and I became, even though we were two opposites, people used to call us Laverne and Shirley because I was the Shirley, she was the Laverne. She would take the bull by the horns and run with it. But what we noticed, it was a cliquish school. It was a very small school. Most of these kids had went to kindergarten together, if they even went to kindergarten, to put it to you that way. But as we were going through school, we both kind of developed this friendship, like, so the guy asked the prom queen out. And then you would analyze it. Well, it's probably because her daddy owns the hardware store. Or, something, they think they're getting clout, in other words. Mm-hmm. How often do we make stupid decisions based on clout? Because Robin and I are like still really good friends. And I'm just telling you, nobody could have been the beauty queen like her. I mean, she would have been it. She was very athletic, very outgoing. It's just that we didn't fit in. And another one of our friends, Kim, came from California. Well, she was the weird person from California. And as she wasn't weird at all. She was like, so the three of us gained this friendship, the three of us, because we came the same year from other schools, we did not feel accepted.
Mm-hmm. And your question is?
My question is, do we make decisions sometimes built on thinking we're gaining clout?
Absolutely, we do. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I have to say.
You are, and you're really not.
Well, that's the point. When you write it out, just like you did with your T and making your decisions pro and con, you have to say, what will I gain from this? And what you gain, if you're saying, oh, I'm gaining clout, step back, write about clout. What does that mean to you? What can I gain from that? Why am I making that decision? Because what we do is we make these decisions, quote, based on clout, and you have a feeling of guilt inside, which you can let go of through writing. But if you're guilty because you know that you're doing it, you're dating the car salesman's daughter because you might get a car from him, right? Just saying.
Not me, but I
didn't do that. But if you know that you're doing that internally, your body is saying, "Boy, are you a real piece of work," right? You're putting yourself down because you're doing it for clout, as opposed to, do I really like her? Do I really want to date her? Does she fit with me? No. So I'm not going to date her, even though I could get this. So as you mature, you make those decisions less on whether you're going to get clout, as opposed to, I don't like myself when I make those kinds of decisions. I'd rather like myself. Mm-hmm. So, but the truth is, when you write it out and you know what you're doing as you mature and as you discover journaling and as you discover a spiritual sense, you're going to make decisions not necessarily based on clout, because you could have had all the clout in the world taking that job in New York. Just saying. And you didn't, because you knew who you were. You knew that you liked gardening, you liked the open air, you liked that your son could be in a safe environment, you liked the education he was going to get, all kinds of things you knew about yourself. And there was this nebulous kind of, what am I going to get from that? And you could have had clout and money and glamour and surgery.
I'll just live with the wrinkles.
Yeah, I love the wrinkles. I at first, people were saying, "Oh, and I, believe it or not, I'm on Instagram, and so I've been making these videos. And I'm on all three, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I have a channel, but was making these videos, and I was thinking to myself about an incident that if you have one person out of all of the viewers that says something negative, this person said, you need a makeover and a new hairdo. And I'm going, that's about you, girlfriend. because I'm not, you know, and my videos are very successful, and they're basically one question, 12 seconds long, and you know, gives people something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't have to worry about getting a makeover. I don't, at one time I was like, oh, they're not going to want to look at me because I'm so old looking and ugly and all that stuff. Well, I don't think that way anymore. It was a long time.
I think you're a beautiful person. If people just sit down and listen, for goodness sakes, you got one of the smiles on earth. Do you know how many people who are model status, whatever, have like no emotions?
I know.
And you can see it in their pictures. It's almost like a fake person. It's like, is that a real person? Is that a cartoon from AI?
There are a lot of stories behind that particular issue as well. So yeah, but I said to myself, you know, you are who you are, and they can either accept you or not, but you're going to make these videos. And because I was like, oh, I've got to make a video. I hate it. I thought, no, I'm going to hate making videos. I rejected it over and over again when people said, you need to make a video. And I finally said, okay, I'll make a video. It took me 12 seconds and it went viral.
Well, and I just wanted to mention this because, see, you were making it, you were making a decision, even though other people were suggesting that you do it. You know, I mean, but you need to do it. And you just didn't because you thought something else, which was totally untrue.
Well, and also I think I had to listen to myself, because until I accepted my, you know, this being on screen,
Right.
I couldn't have done it well. I couldn't have expressed myself well. I would have been very stiff and, you know, just like you said, an unemotional, unconnected kind of person. But in reality, I'm a very connected person. I like to connect with people. I like to see their emotions. I like to hear their stories. And so what happened was I started making these videos, and I said, oh, I like kind of doing this. And so I started waking up excited about the next day's video. What am I going to do today? What am I going to ask? You know, that kind of thing. And so it's been a really nice process for me. I learned a lot of technology, you know, and I have to say there's nothing better than learning every day something new and being excited about it, you know, because.
But you know something, DeJoly, people are looking for truth. They're not looking. I think people are tired of fake stuff. I know I am. I'm really quick. I don't care what channel it is on television. It could be CNN or it could be Fox. If it feels fake, click, I'm going somewhere else. Yep. And I think people do that now. I don't think people look at appearance. I don't think people, and I think you have a great appearance myself, but what I'm saying is I don't think people are looking for that anymore. And the ones who are looking for it are so superficial, I don't care whether they watch it or not.
Yeah.
So I think you got to feel, because people were suggesting you do it. There had to be a reason. A lot of people were asking you if you're going to start doing videos.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And that's how I got into coaching, was because so many people were asking me, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? And finally I said, well, you know, I could say a few things, and I could probably coach you and get you out of that situation, you know, that mindset, because what we do is we operate on mindsets. If you can shift somebody's mindset, then they can walk forward toward their healing place, as opposed to staying stuck in their painful place. So it really is about acceptance of who we are. And to me, that came through writing, because I had to write down, why are you criticizing your hair all the time? Believe it or not, this is a real thing. I cried on a video or a call one time recently, actually, with a friend of mine, because I got it right then in my head that she said I had a cute hairdo, right? And my head was, I inherited my father's hair because it's fine and thin, and I'm not like my father. That's what my head was saying. That's my brain. And I couldn't accept her compliment because I was seeing myself, I'm not my father. Don't tell me that, Well, I got to the place where, now that I recognize that I do that, I'm not going to do that anymore. I like my hair. My hair's fine.
And I've seen so many people. I'll give you another good example. We have to go in. I can't believe how time flies when you're on the show. Okay, so I used to own a headhunting business. It was a Snelling franchise to help people find jobs. It was a lot of. I've loved everything I've ever done, so it was a fun job. It was a different cycle in my life, and so I found the lady was looking for a property manager for some apartments she owned. And so the person she'd had for years just left and went on to something else, moved, relocated or something. And so I had the perfect guy. I mean, this guy checked all the boxes. He was perfect, personality and all this kind of stuff. So she didn't hire him. She said, send somebody else. That's all she said was send somebody else. And I said, well, I need to know why so I don't make a mistake and send you something that you're not looking for. And she said, oh, he checked all the boxes. And I said, well, if he checked all the boxes, why are you not hiring him? It doesn't make sense to me. I said, help me to understand. And she said, okay, Donna, he looks like my ex.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, well, I mean, he can't help that. If the guy's going to check all the boxes, you got to get over that, And I said, but if I send anybody else, they're not going to have near the qualifications this guy's got. And you're basing the whole decision on is he looks like your ex.
But we do that all the time.
We do. So that is a normal thing. People make decisions. She went on ahead and hired him. I think it worked
on their past.
Yeah, there you go. Just like you said about your hair, it made you think of Dad.
Mm-hmm. Which here I am, 77 years old, and I didn't realize that I was equating it every single time anybody gave me a compliment about my hair. I was equating it with my father, who was a horrible person. And I'm like, I'm not a horrible person. It's not about my horrible person. It's about my hair. And so when I got to that, I was like, wow, DeJoly. So I'm not too old to learn. I'm not too old to examine myself and to continue doing the work I'm doing in order for me to get to that spiritual place of peace. I am peaceful. I engender peace, and I know who I am, what I'm doing, and all that stuff. But I still know that things come up that you don't expect to come up, and then if I look at it and I say, oh, wow, DeJoly, where'd that come from? And that's where my pen comes into place. I say, why don't you like your hair? And why did you react that way to your friend? She was complimenting my hair, complimenting you. What's that about? So, I'm just saying that you can never get too old to do this work.
Oh, and parents, be very careful. Okay, so my parents divorced years ago, and I am the image of Dad. I mean, I look just like him. So, which is not a good thing because Mother detests him even now, even though it's been decades later. Now, my brother and sister look like her side of the family. And so sometimes she looks at me, and one time I said, Mother, I will get facial reconstructive surgery if you'll pay for it. I can't help what I look like, so please don't make decisions about me that are not true simply because you hated him. So we've got to be careful as parents. Like if one kid's going to look like the other one, you can't help that.
I looked like my father, and my mother treated me differently from my other siblings.
See what I mean? Yeah, that's what I got too. So that's another thing we've got in common. Let's go into a commercial break. Parents, I'm telling you this, be careful, okay? Think about things because the kids have to grow up with your decisions of whatever you do, whatever you spew out of your mouth. So be really careful. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Lowe's knows that the projects you build in spring are the ones you can't wait to share. It's why we make sure you have our best deals with My Lowe's Rewards, and that you get help from people who've
been there,
done that.
Try this.
This spring, we'll help you build something rewarding.
Hey, Stan. What's up? I made you something. Oh, thank you. And I got something for you. You grew these? Of course.
Lowe's knows how to help you spring.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities. Okay, we're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you again so much for watching. It means the world to me. Continue sending email, Donna@donnasedge.com, Donna@donnasedge.com, and tell your friends about us. If you don't mind, share the show. You know, we do social media, and we would definitely appreciate you doing that right now, especially with DeJoly on the show, because this can help a whole lot of people. Let's get to some of the emails, and
Okay.
I've got, there's so many. Okay. How do I get started? How do I get started journaling?
Get a pen, a piece of paper, and just write. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to write about. What's on my mind? And then you just start writing. You don't have to have a special book. You don't have to have a course. You just have to write what's coming out of your heart onto the paper, the truth. If you can't write the truth, then write something as close to the truth as you can until you get to the truth. Let me just put it that way. Because what happens is sometimes we try to fake our way through, I'm feeling great. And then it turns into, man, he really sucks. I just would change that pen over to the other hand. He really, because at one point I was using it as a diary, just what did I do today? Then I was using it as a gratitude list, which you can add that into it. And then I was using it as a rant. I would rant about something anyway. And then I realized, that rant helped me get that out of me, but it also allowed me to see, there's more there than I thought there was, right? You think that's only about one thing, and in reality, it's about five things. So all you have to do is I've told people that you can write a book on Post-it notes, because you just write a sentence on a Post-it note and put it on your tablet and just come back to it later and write another sentence somewhere. Mm-hmm. You end up having a book because you actually can expand those Post-it notes. But that's kind of the same thing that you do with the journaling, is that you're going to put something down there that you don't think is going to go anywhere, and all of a sudden you have 3 pages of writing, Mm-hmm. Because what you're saying is, how do I get started? I just buy spiral notebooks from the store, and when I feel like it, I write every day. Okay, I'm also a writer for our local newspaper, so I just write in that notebook. What's the question of the day for me? And that is, how are you feeling today, DeJoly? Why are you why are you depressed? Why are you happy? Why are you, what is it that you're feeling? And sometimes it's feeling so deeply emotional because there's so much beauty around me. I live in the woods. And so I see the trees and the birds and the hawks and just all kinds of deer, squirrels. I see everything like you live in the woods. And so it's kind of like, at first it can be just, man, I really love where I live. Mm-hmm. Even if that's all you do. I love my home. I love my children. And then you say, but so-and-so did thus and such. And then you start going, And then you say, why am I reacting to my child doing that? Mm-hmm. Why? Because I do a journaling workshop at the library here once a month. And there were 2 women who were having trouble with their daughters-in-law. And what they finally realized, I said, journaling is an inside job. It's not about what they did out there, anybody out there. Mm-hmm. It's about what you're doing inside. If what you're feeling is negative, ask yourself, why are you feeling negative? And what's the story that you're building around an incident? This one, she didn't sign the Mother's Day card. Okay, she didn't sign the Mother's Day card. Mm-hmm. She hates me. She can't stand me. She's always mean to me. And I'm like, Are you sure that's the case? So we examine it. And it turns out that story that she told around that incident of not signing the Mother's Day card goes back to how her mother treated her. And she's treating her daughter-in-law the same way. She's treating her daughter-in-law the same way that her mother treated her. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting. Once you start saying this is an inside job, it's not about what everybody's doing out there. It's about how you are reacting to that which is happening out there and why. And then taking it and being curious. I think the biggest part of our lives is we're not curious about ourselves. We're curious about everybody else, but we're not curious about ourselves. And why? Because you have to tell yourself the truth about who you are and what you are and why you do certain things and what you believe. At some point in recovery, I had the opportunity to just sit with myself and say, what is it you believe, DeJoly? Why do you believe that? I do a workshop also on forgiveness. And when I got to that place where I said, I forgive myself for believing what other people said about me, that was a big deal. That's a big deal when you say, I forgive myself or blah, 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 whatever it is. But for me, it was for believing what other people said about me. Absolutely. It changed my whole life.
And it will. I got another good one for you right here. I almost skipped over this one. Okay. And this needs to be answered. Okay, so the person is in, I don't know if it's a man or a woman, they're in an abusive situation, and they're afraid if they start journaling that this person is going to hurt them again. I don't know if that means physically or what, but what should this person do?
Well, if that person is going to journal and has that kind of a situation, initially I would do the journaling outside of the home, outside of where the person can see it. Because you do need clarity in a situation like that. Your mind is all jumbled up with, oh, what's he going to do? We are so close to our fears that we don't see the options of what we can do. So when you write it down, you can get some more clarity. You can also find other people where you can store your journal, so to speak, without fear of somebody coming and looking at it. There are lots of things you can do in that way, but being in an abusive situation, you have to be able to be specific. You can say, oh, he's abusing me or she's abusing me. But you're not being specific. For instance, we say that a person was molested. In actuality, they were raped. He did thus and such, and now she can't have children because he did it to her when she was 3 years old, right? So there's more specificity when you write it down. And when you see it on paper, you say, my God, why am I with this person? Do I value myself enough? And then that's the next step, and that is, why don't I value myself? It goes back to who, what, where, when, why, and how, right? Those journalistic questions that we ask ourselves when we're curious about what other people are doing and why they're doing it. You do the same thing to yourself. You have to ask yourself, being in an abusive situation, I don't want to say stay. I don't want to say go, because there's all kinds of ramifications for me making that kind of statement. But journaling will help you get some clarity about where you are with that relationship and what your options are for moving away from that relationship. And what part of it, and this is something that I had to do myself, what part of it are you promoting? What part of it are you taking on, for instance? Like, I'm the common denominator in all my failed marriages, all of the relationships that I've had that have gone nowhere or have gone way, way big. So it's kind of like, what is it? What part are you playing in it? Are you playing small? Are you playing victim? Are you playing, what is the role you're playing in it? And then do you want to stay in that role? So that's why you journal, is because you can get far more clarity out of the actions you're taking, as opposed to, I don't know what he's going to do, and fear. And what you do is you tell other people you're afraid, and they're afraid for you. So that energy stays around you, that fear stays around you, and the person who's abusing can sense that. And they can they continue until you're beaten down, so you just don't do anything. Mm-hmm. So journaling allows you to take the pen and be truthful and say, this is how I'm feeling. This is the kind of relationship I'm in. Do I want to stay in it? Mm-hmm. And if you can find a place where you can store your journal and maybe do it once a day, once every other day, whatever, do it as often as you possibly can to get more clarity, then that will help you make a decision whether you're going to stay in that relationship or not. Mm-hmm. You cannot change, let me tell you, you cannot change anyone else but yourself. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to say he or she is abusing me, you can say, why is he abusing me? Why am I letting him abuse me? What is my part in it? Mm-hmm. Right? It's not about, I'm not saying, oh, you should stay because, you've got to save this marriage or you've got to save this relationship. No, you don't have to do anything. You have to live according to your heart and know yourself well enough to know whether you value yourself. And if you don't, you need to be around people who value you and borrow their value of you. Because if you don't, and they do, they know something you don't know about yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's about journaling your way through to clarity to figure out what's your next step.
We have about 3 minutes left in this segment. So I'm going to ask you a question that's really going to be a segment for the next time you're on the show as well. So this is going to be a good one right here, okay? Because we say yes to everything because we want to please everybody. It's going to make them sad if I say no, blah, 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 blah. How powerful is the word no?
It's absolutely very powerful. And I think probably that goes to a discussion that we can have next time about codependency and how to get out of it. Because what we do is we are taught from a very young age that you have to please everybody in order to be liked. You can't please everybody. That's reality, okay? So when you say yes, and whether it's by not saying no, or you actually say the word yes, that's like saying you don't value yourself when it's something that you don't want to do. If there's something you don't want to do and you say no, I'm not doing that. What can they say? They can say why, and you know what? You can say, I just don't want to do it. You don't have to give an excuse. You don't have to give a reason. We're taught that we have to say all of the reasons why we don't want to do something when we don't want to do it, right? But that's
so much life doing that. It was just a total waste.
Yes. And you learn from that. And what I learned is that you can overcome codependency. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about it because I know you said it's for next time.
Yeah, it's gonna be for next time. But I'll just have to tell you this: I finally woke up one day. This is after knowing you, and about how much. Okay, when you say yes, when you really mean no, when you really mean you don't want to do it for some reason or another, then the next day you got to think of a way to get out of it. Then that takes time. Am I going to lie because I don't want to do it? You might bring in a lie there. That's not a good thing. The best thing overall is just say no.
No.
I mean, it's just the best. I've wasted so much of my life doing that. And you're trying to save the person's feelings. What you're going to wind up doing is making them mad at you. It's better just to simply say no.
Yeah. Was it Mark Twain that said it's better to tell the truth because you always forget who you lied to?
I would. That's why Phil doesn't have to worry about me having an affair. I'd forget. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you that guy's name. I simply don't want to. But what I mean is no. But anyway, I'm really think about the things people have to do to cover lies. Yep. That's another great topic right there. And a lot of it is with good intent. You're like, you just don't want to hurt the people's feelings, and sometimes it's just best to be honest. I think that's why in politics and whatever, tell the truth. If you've had an affair with somebody, just simply say, I was a bonehead, I was stupid, and I did it. Yeah. I promise you get more votes because people are going to think they were honest about it. Maybe they'll be honest when they get in the office. But
Maybe.
Gotta go. DeJoly, thank you again so much. You got my heart. Thank you so much for being with me on the show. And thank you guys so much for sending questions. Send more.
Yes.
Donna at donna'sedge.com. Donna at donna'sedge.com. Don't be quiet about it. And I promise I'm not going to use your name. I've just started doing this. Sometimes people say, don't use my name. I just don't use the name anymore anyway. That way I don't have to remember which ones to use the name for it. Unless you just say, please use my name, then I will.
So if they're looking for me on the platforms, it's DeJoly LaBrier or just DeJoly, just my name. Depends on where you're looking.
There you go. Again, thank you guys so much for being with us.